Welcome to Shop Talk Live, Fine Woodworking's bi-weekly podcast. I'm here with Fine Woodworking Creative Director Mike Pekovich.
Hey, guys.
Deputy Art Director John Tetro.
Hello.
And America's Next Top Model runner-up Jeff Rose.
Jeff, come in.
I'm your host, Ben Strano. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer on the show, send them in to shoptalk@taunton.com. You can also use the voice memo app on your phone and email us a 30-second audio recording, or you can leave a voicemail by calling 203-304-3456.
Whose number is that?
I think it's the voicemail's supposed to go to me.
Yeah.
It goes to my email because I get like random emails of like 4 seconds of hang up.
That's me.
Any links or articles we mention will be on this episode's show notes page, which can be found at shoptalklive.com. Lastly, if you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. So we've got John Tetro here.
We do.
Which is awesome. Do you want to like introduce
to
John Tetro? Because I don't think everyone knows the John Tetro.
No, and he's not going to introduce himself this way. John Tetro, you've been at the magazine how many years?
10-ish, a little over 10.
Wow. So John Tetro came in as Associate Art Director. Mm-hmm. You are now Deputy Art Director. When John came in to interview for the job, I was the art director at the time. John came in sporting some very stylish sunglasses with a wooden frame that he had made himself. And so I don't know what else he said or what he showed me, but that was it. John is a fantastic woodworker, often woodworking with older wood. You did an article on reclaimed stock, which was brilliant. One of woodworkers I'm most inspired by because of the attitude he brings to everything he makes, and he's amazingly creative, not just with woodworking, but with his layout, and he's also a fantastic illustrator. A lot of his work shows up in the pages in the magazine, and I'm very thankful for him to do that. So that is John Tetro.
Thanks.
The man.
I'm going to continue talking about him like he's not here.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
And one of the best parts of working daily in the shop at work is John normally gets there before everyone else, and he sneaks in the morning, works, and then goes to the office before everyone else. But you walk in the shop and you go, what was he doing today? Because it's always like this array.
Because I forgot to clean up, yeah.
But there's always an array of tools that no one else uses. There's always like, what? And like a month or so ago, I was like, is he making a map of the world? And yeah, he was making a map of the world out of, tell us about this project.
It was actually really fun. So it was for our church. It's kind of a church that puts a big importance on missions. Mm-hmm. So this was a big 6 foot tall by 12 feet wide map of the world. Mm-hmm. So made out of reclaimed barn board. And it kind of changed as I went along. It was going to be just simple shapes, kind of jigs on, and that was about it. But then once I wanted to add more detail, it got a little more funky.
Got a little bit more Tetro-y.
Routing and carving and changing the plan so little parts didn't fall off. Like, the little hook coming off of Alaska was the first thing that I actually used the jigsaw on, and I got it pretty much done. There's a little crack, and it fell on the floor. So I had to figure out a different way to do that.
Are you? You'll have to give me a picture of it to post to the website. Are you pleased with the way it turned out?
Yeah, it was really fun to put up on the wall because you could see it all at once, kind of step back and see what it was supposed to look like.
And it was almost one piece, right? Or were they divided by continents? Or
strategically kind of connecting parts where you might have detail that would otherwise just kind of fall off or be too small to mount separately. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, divided by continents with, Greenland and Iceland being together. Some little islands were connected by wood, kind of getting out to where they were.
And the wood connecting, you painted the same color as the back wall, so it kind of disappeared.
I think that was the trick, because then you could really see what it looked like once it was up on the wall.
Yeah. I remember seeing it in the shop standalone, and I think you had maybe started to paint some of the background in, and I was like, oh no, why'd he do that?
I had the same thought when I first did it.
But it was like when you showed me the picture of it installed, it was,
cool.
I should always have faith to trust in John, but
yes.
It's still missing Hawaii. I got to get that on there.
Man,
It's like 3 feet away, like in proportion. So I have to. That's a separate little piece.
It's like they always put Alaska and Hawaii down at the bottom of the U.S. map whenever it's pictured on a page, and I just assume that's where Alaska and Hawaii was.
entirely out of scale.
Yes. Oh, yes. Alaska being really small in comparison to Hawaii being giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's answer some woodworking questions.
Cool.
All right, the first question is from Tom. Recently, I've seen a lot of arts and crafts projects assembled with biscuits. I don't have a biscuit joiner, and given the $200 price tag, I'm wondering if I'd be better off going with a high-quality dowel jig. Clearly, the speed of adjustment favors the biscuit joiner. I would very much like a domino, but I don't think that's in the budget, especially after a recent table saw upgrade. So don't say domino, Mike.
I won't. I don't necessarily equate arts and crafts projects with biscuits, although we did a table way back at desk with Stephen Hammer where he had a drawer box, which I believe was assembled to the side rail with biscuits.
I think that there were a few. There's definitely a time period where there were a lot of biscuit themed projects with arts and crafts, or the other way around, whatever. But there was a Greg Paolini article that had a lot of biscuit use as well, I think.
For like tabletops or
Edge to edge joinery, I think, and the of course I edited this question a little bit, but I think part of the thing that would be nice about having a biscuit joiner in arts and crafts furniture is getting the offsets right, and maybe the offsets would be easier to do with a biscuit than without a biscuit.
How much is biscuit joiner? What's the Dowel go for?
probably like a couple $100, right?
Yeah,
No,
I
it's
think
not
they're close to 200.
No, it's not.
150-ish.
No,
You guys talk.
I don't know.
Say something interesting.
Okay, so Dowel biscuit joiner. I mean, okay, so here you go. A biscuit joiner, it might seem like it might have a high price tag, but let's compare it to the domino. Now all of a sudden, a biscuit joiner is like a tremendous value.
Yeah.
170 to 180.
Oh, see, that's not a problem.
But a used one is a lot cheaper.
Yes.
I'd say go with, a used one to get you going and then save
Yeah.
up for the domino.
I say get a DeWalt. Or Porter Cable is almost a direct clone of the DeWalt.
Yeah.
Get a DeWalt. And then read the article by Michael Fortune where he shows you how to mount your biscuit joiner to like a little benchtop bench.
Yeah.
Like screw it down and turn it into a stationary machine, and then use various hold-down clamps or fences to register the parts for biscuiting, and it just turns it into a completely different tool.
More
I
accurate.
think that applies even if you're going to go through all of the trouble of the expense of getting a name brand biscuit joiner
Yeah.
and going through all the trouble of making the table and the fence and all that stuff. You might as well do it with a bargain store joiner, because the weakness of a joiner, a cheap joiner, is the fences.
Joiner, biscuit joiner?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Get a DeWalt biscuit joiner.
No, used DeWalt biscuit joiner.
Yeah.
we're not going to agree between the three of us. This is great. Yeah. But all right, compare a biscuit joiner to a dowel jig. A nice dowel jig, then.
There's no such thing as a nice dowel jig.
Oh.
Well, I mean, in terms of furniture making, I mean, you get the, the best dowel jig I have, and I've had it for literally 30 years, it's a side clamping guy with that, it's sort of like the aluminum jaws and that little screw on the side. And I
it a
think they still
Stanley?
make it.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Dowel jig. Center clamping dowel jig.
There's a name for it. There's a brand name for it. Those are cool, and it's got so it's self-centering. There's little guidelines milled into the block with the holes in it that lets you guide things, line up things to like a little pencil line on your workpiece. I use those forever. I would use those for aligning parts and tabletops for glue ups, and I found that what they were really, really good for was perfectly misaligning your parts by a small amount. And I found since then, if you do a good job when you're jointing the edges and you do a really good job with clamping calls during glue up, I don't use anything for alignment that way. the way that a lot of times dowels are used traditionally in furniture making, this is why I say there's no such thing as a good dowel jig, was that one you can make your own really, really effectively. And that's sort of that kind of that Krenov style way that you use them, where it's a strip of wood, you drill holes in it, you tack on a little fence to it so you can clamp it onto the edge of the board. There's some really, really smart strategies for using dowels in furniture, which doesn't incorporate buying a store-bought dowel jig. You just sort of make it yourself. I'm trying to think of articles.
Jennifer Henderson had one.
Jennifer Anderson, probably Jim Budlong when he did the Krenov style case. I'm going to say, I think. Jennifer Anderson. Did she do the desk with the gallery? Was it that piece?
I don't remember the project, but Barry and I were recently talking about dovetails, and I remembered that she did it. And there's a sidebar in the article about making the dowel jig.
So if an article proposal, if this little strip with holes in it shows up, you go College of the Redwoods. If you see a picture of someone cutting dovetails pins first, you go North Bennett.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we narrow them down through the 41 years of articles.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. A self-centering dowel jig, which is as close to a name as I can
Dowlet?
find. I don't see that.
I've heard of that one.
It sounds like something.
Should be something.
Should be like kind of expensive.
A self-centering doweling jig is $70.
Yeah.
And I have one. We all have one because recently Barry texted us all and said who has a doweling jig, and every single one of us was like,
except Barry.
yeah. But I'll sell it for $50 right now. I don't ever use it. I used it for like a month, and I think I had the same experience where it was like nothing ever quite lined up the way that it should have.
Yeah.
Did you have a biscuit joiner at the same time? You had
I had a bargain
jig?
basement biscuit joiner, and I did the Michael Fortune thing with, I screwed it to a piece of plywood and used that as the reference for everything. Yeah. And you could use shims under it. You could, it was just a lot more solid. And the bargain basement biscuit joiner, it was a plastic fence. I don't even think I ever put it on. Mm-hmm. I just threw the fence away immediately because you knew that this was not a piece of precision machinery.
Anyway, I was completely zoned out. I'm sure you said something awesome.
Are you like scrolling through my Instagram now?
I'm totally going through your Instagram. No, sorry. It's the Dowlet 1000, and it looks like now it says by Rockler, so maybe Rockler bought the brand or something like that. But that type of thing, side clamping works good. There used to be like a rotary thing, and almost looked like a pencil sharpener that you clamp to it.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, I had one of those, and don't get one of those.
Okay. Right on.
Oh, but speaking of that,
what?
I did that with my biscuit joiner. I also now do that now that I'm using a domino. The majority of the time, I do have that thing sort of attached to a little tabletop thing, and I add fences to it and stuff for
the domino.
For my domino for using like joinery for like door frames and that kind of stuff. It works out pretty well. I was just using that in the class this week.
I have in my domino a stack of shims from Libby Schrum did that article on it's a liquor cabinet. Yeah. We called it something
kind
else.
Of that mid-century modern credenza.
Yeah. And she very, very smartly used shims to provide all of her offsets. And so one day I just went in the shop and like grabbed every piece of MDF lying around and just made a stack of shims, and I can come up with any offset I need based on those 4 or 5 shims.
Cool. And
that has been monumental because you set the fence once. It doesn't matter if it's centered on the board. It doesn't matter where it doesn't matter what the setting is because you're going to use shims to get everything else based off of that one setting.
That's good.
Yeah. So you don't ever use like a domino or anything like that. You go out of your way to make like wacky dovetails and stuff instead.
I've never used a domino, but I'm sure I would like it. When I first started building furniture, I used a biscuit joiner all the time for tabletops, and I made a lot of coffee tables and dining tables. Mm-hmm. now, I would just glue that. I wouldn't do a dowel or a biscuit, I don't think.
So edge to edge, you don't do anything. You don't do anything. I stopped because you told me not to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, John and I think we're sort of in this similar boat in that a domino is a great tool for when you don't want to see your joinery. But both John and I tend to want to see our joinery in terms of, whether it's through mortise and tenons or dovetails and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So for like internal dividers, like vertical dividers between drawers where they're not going to go all the way through, that's kind of where I end up using a domino. It's where I used to use a biscuit joiner.
Yeah. All right.
I did just use a dowel jig, the homemade kind, like we were talking about, to drill the end of a door panel, like a Maloof style door.
Oh, yeah.
Where I, put in like a brass rod at the top, and it was just making a little, I think I used like a 2-inch scrap of something. So you had like a good thickness to drill through to keep the drill bit straight. And then just little fences. And that was kind of a one-time use thing, though, to line up that top. Kind of weird.
Were you doing this for a hinge or something? Or?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to question number 2, which is from Aaron.
Okay. But with a biscuit joiner and a domino, all those kinds of tools, it's not automatic. I mean, there's a whole lot to learn in terms of the technique and strategies for using them really effectively. Like you hear, biscuit joiner is not really woodworking, but it's like, no, it's a really, really smart, effective tool that you can use if you think about how to go about doing it.
Yeah, and if you think a domino makes things automatic and simple, you should see some of the way I've screwed things up with a domino. All right, question number 2 from Aaron. How do you ensure a square glue up with a leg that tapers just below the apron? Are you relying completely on the shoulder of the tenon being square?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just make sure the top of the leg is flush with the top of the apron, and you can get a square on the outside.
Make sure the top of the leg is flush with the top of the
So you
apron.
can register a square up one side of the leg going across the top?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. So
if the outside isn't tapered, okay.
It sounds like Aaron is thinking about square in terms of top to bottom, like the legs sort of square along their length to the apron. And in that sense, if you have an apron which is 3 or 4 or 5 inches deep, that's a ton of shoulder reference. So that's going to automatically square or out of square your workpiece, depending on how closely you cut your shoulders. The other type of square, which is really, really important, is if you look at the top view, a lot of times the apron is outset to the outside of the legs. So if you inadvertently put a clamping pressure all the way across the legs cross-section, you could sort of tweak it in so it's like rotated out of square as you're looking down on it. And that could make, because often we'll do a glue up like the side aprons with 2 legs into 2 glue ups, and then you bring everything together. But if your legs are sort of twisted out of square, it can make that second glue up more difficult. So 2 things. Get when you glue up those 2 side sections, you can get a piece of wood as wide as the apron is and use that as a clamping call. So the clamping pressure is going directly over the apron as it enters the leg. It isn't going all the way across the leg and possibly pulling it out of square that way.
So this clamping call is
It's just a piece. It's a stick roughly the same width as the apron.
and it's just making sure that you cannot apply force
Where you don't want
outside of where
Yeah.
that apron is going to be.
Yep. And
So
then-
you're applying the clamping pressure directly across from the apron.
Yes. And then another trick directly related to that a lot of really experienced woodworkers go through the trouble to do, and it sounds like it's kind of a waste of time or overly time consuming, is that if you're only gluing the side aprons on, say, a table, it's really, really smart to dry fit the long aprons in place too. So it's like usually what do? We put glue on everything and try and pull it all together at once. That's a little bit crazy. Or we're pulling things together in separate subunits, and that can maybe rack things out of square. But this whole nature is that you're always assembling the table, but you're only gluing certain areas, and then you're pulling it back apart and gluing it. It's really smart.
But the assembly is making sure that you can get it assembled at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And those are horrible articles to lay out because the photos look like, why are you taking that apart? It was just together, and now you're putting it back together again. So it's like, I don't know. I have a feeling we tend to maybe gloss over that just a little bit because usually we got to spread It's like make the mortise and tenons, make the top parts, assemble. You get like
Yeah.
one spread, 2 pages to assemble. So a lot of times we don't have that whole put together, take it apart, glue this, put it back together, pull it apart, now glue this. And all of a sudden, like, and all these photos look exactly the same. So we just say, assemble, and then you're done. Sorry about that.
The other thing that I've seen, like the pros do, that I never take the time to do, and I need to, is making actual calls for that particular glue up that they're about to do. Whether it is shaped calls to go around the dovetails that they're. Do you guys do that? Because both of you guys like exposed, proud dovetails.
Yeah.
That seems like a glue up nightmare. What do you do? Or do you just put the clamps next to them, John?
I do both. I do have a stack of, long sticks that have dados or grooves taken out in between. And sometimes I'll just reach for one of those and see if it happens to line up with that project. Or if I don't find one that lines up, then generally I'll just clamp next to it. But yeah, both ways.
Yeah.
Chris Bexford just uses soft piece of pine that deforms around the dovetails.
Yep.
Our dovetails tend to stick out a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like-
afraid of the glue sticking to that too.
Yeah.
If any squeeze out, because I always have that, might kind of attach that piece of pine to it.
Yeah. I used to do that whole little notchy thing with the stick. Then you got to kind of tape it in place and make sure it's not flipped around so the little pins are there. And you're going to save it for the next time. And then it's like the dovetail spacing is completely different. I don't try not to clamp my dovetails anymore.
Really?
You just pop it together.
Well, if you're Mike Pekovich, they're tight enough to just go together and hold together.
It's half of that, and it's half. I don't care. I can live with that guy.
It's half being good and half lowering your expectations.
I'll just stick a clamp. Usually, I am pulling the joint together just to get it seated. I find that because clamping a dovetail joint, you're not adding any strength to that joint. All the clamps are doing are holding the parts into a proper position while the glue dries. So, that's a big thing when you're clamping is to sort of figure out what is the clamp doing in this situation. Is it like an edge-to-edge joint where the clamping pressure is a really important thing, and you want to make sure you use enough clamps and they're situated so that you're getting clamping pressure all the way along the joint, and you're really socking them down? Or is it like a mortise and tenon joint or dovetail where the clamp going across a dovetail or clamping a mortise and tenon joint together, it's not, all you're doing is holding those pieces together. So the less pressure you can use while keeping everything together, the better, which is why I don't clamp them, because if the dovetails are pretty tight and the boards aren't like warped over their length where you want to have to clamp that closed, a lot of times you don't need it. And if I do, I'll clamp it together, usually just to seat it. You hear this big pop, and then it's seated, and then I'll loosen up the clamp until, I'll loosen up. And if it doesn't come back apart, I won't put it on, because what a clamp is really good at doing, especially if you have a dovetail carcass, it's really good at pulling it out of square. And then that makes bigger problems for you down the road. So I would rather have dovetail carcass with maybe really some hairline gaps in my dovetails here and there, but it's really, really square, as opposed to joints that are super tight and somehow I pull things out of square, because that makes fitting doors and drawers a nightmare later on.
Do you guys ever rehearse glue ups?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think that's that next level pro thing too. And
What do you mean by rehearse? What are you
Well,
talking about,
Like
John?
dry fitting.
dry fitting, using all of the clamps you're going to use. Because I would.
Yeah, I wish I went that far, but
Okay.
I don't.
But you've been through enough glue ups to where you know what you're doing.
Yeah, but you're all of a sudden you're doing it and it's not going as well as it did in the dry glue up, and all of a sudden you're running around, especially at our shop, looking for another clamp that does not exist, and that's when all hell breaks loose.
That's yeah.
That's just a glue up.
That's a good idea.
It's just a glue up. I don't know. I feel like just a glue up. It feels like the most important thing ever.
Kind of along those lines, sometimes you'll hear advice from people that I only fit my dovetails halfway down. I don't want to go all the way down because I don't fill in the blank. I'm not sure why people do that. I think it's incredible. Maybe like for pine, because like you're compressing the joint, you don't want to pre-compress. But if you're working in hardwoods, which I typically do, you better make darn sure that joint is going to seat all the way down. So I fit all of my joints, each corner individually. Because if you kind of get it down, it's like, oh, those dovetails look really good, and there's a little gap at the bottom. You say, that's okay, I can like clamp that closed. And then you get the clamps on, and you tighten those clamps, and that gap doesn't go away, and it doesn't go away, and it doesn't go away because there might be something in the corners and the bottom you didn't clean out. So I'm a huge, huge believer in, like if I have a dovetail case, so 4 dovetail corners, I will fit each dovetail and I will smack that thing down until it is like tight, tight, tight down.
Yeah.
Mark that good, do that for every single one, and then I can pull everything together. The last thing.
But do you dry fit everything together? Or do you do all 4 and know that
no,
you're
you gotta
good?
try because you gotta see it.
Okay,
Right?
yeah.
It's like that's the payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good.
That's no
Checking.
strategy. It's just like, oh man, I got all these 4 corners. If I just tapped it together, it's going to come together. Yeah. I may not go all the way, but I probably do. Because a lot of times you're dry fitting to measure internal parts from there that might be pertain to that glue up that have to go inside, like internal dividers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I had one more thought on Aaron's question there.
Yeah.
With the dry fitting. So if you dry fit it and then measure from the outside of the leg to the outside of the leg at the top near the apron, and then you can cut a stick to fit in between those bottom legs, make sure that's the same distance.
Yeah, that's a
And
really
then,
good point.
just have a clamp at the bottom, not tighten to tight, but just to hold
Keep
it.
them there. Yeah.
And then crank down on the top.
Yeah.
That's a really good
But
point.
that would only work if if the outside faces of the leg are straight all the way down. If it's like a double taper, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the same measurement there.
Right. Can we go back to biscuit joiners?
Just keep backing up.
Tony O'Malley did a really awesome job on using biscuit joiners, and it's not quite as highfalutin as Michael Fortune, which is brilliant. Tony does it in a more basic, using it really smartly for more basic applications, and then Michael Fortune is sort of like the graduate course in biscuit joiner. So check out that one as well.
Okay. There's a really good clamping techniques article by Michael Fortune. Is that highfalutin?
No, that's meat and potatoes. Read that one
good.
too.
All right. We'll put them all in there. All right. It is time for us to talk about our all-time favorite tools of all time for this week. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, John.
Wooden mallet.
Oh,
Very simple.
did you make your own?
I did, but it's basically the crown version that I had before that. That cracked, and then I just kind of made it very similar, size-wise and everything. But I was thinking about why I like it so much, and it's because it's everything you wish you could do with your hand if it didn't hurt. It's like what you know what I mean? It's just kind of the extension of, that's what a really good tool is. It's something that you wish you could do without it.
So if you had a higher pain threshold and were stronger, you wouldn't need a mallet.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you use it for?
Just, tapping a chisel or tapping dovetails together. And that was the other thing I like about it is it's kind of versatile if you just slap a piece of leather on one side.
I was going to ask if you put a leather just on one side, leather and one wood on the other.
Yeah, simple thing, but since I've done that, I love it. The only thing I would change is to be able to tell which face is facing forward just by the feel of the handle.
Oh, like which is the leather and which is the wood part?
Yep.
Okay.
Because it just looks the same. You can't really see the leather that well. It's a small thing, but I think it's just a little carving on one side of the handle. You just immediately picking it up, you'd know which side you have.
I think that's really cool.
So
Do you, is it high glued on or just PVA?
I think I just used yellow glue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did Michael Cullen, who did the mallet article for us?
Yep. That's a good one too.
That's really cool. It's like we have Michael Cullen, one of the most brilliant furniture designers and
Here's a
makers in the history. Can you do an article on making a mallet for us? He's like,
It's nice.
yeah, I guess. Do you want anything about furniture? Yeah. Later. Let's get the mallet first.
Did he milk paint it?
No.
Milk
Oh,
painted
some
and
like really
carved
cool
and-
carving
yeah.
on the side. Yeah.
I think we should challenge Michael Cullen to do another mallet article for a back cover. Because he could do it.
So how many mallets do you have?
2. I kept the old broken one.
Okay.
Do you use that instead of like a dead blow hammer, like with the leather
I
side?
want one of those. I don't have one of those. I want like the rubber.
Yeah, the
kind.
black ones.
Yeah.
I have those kind of like that because like a wooden mallet, I don't want to like ding the surface, and the dead blow, you can just give it a good smack. But if I had a really nice mallet with some leather on the end, that could be cool.
I do want to get a dead blow one.
So use a wooden mallet for your chisels.
Yep.
Okay.
This winter, I discovered that if it's really, really, really cold, do not use a dead blow mallet because they just shatter. Like the cheap plastic, the orange one, just like,
Wow.
you know, just one end is like
I
funky now, we'll say, but it still works.
Okay. What's inside of a dead blow?
It's like a cylinder. It looks like a metal cylinder, and I haven't broken it enough to get that part out yet. Give me a couple months. Or this winter, that'll happen probably.
When you were a kid, did you ever get an old hacksaw and try to cut to the inside of a golf ball, see what's in the middle of there? Back when they were like wound with the rubber bands.
I do that later, I think.
Yeah.
Now I want to know.
All the new ones are like solid core, so it's no fun.
Oh, yeah.
I thought a dead blow mallet had like ball bearings or something in there.
Yeah, they do. Well, yeah, I just
or
think
shot
they're
or something
they're
like that.
encapsulated in like a piece of metal.
Oh,
I'll take a picture and show it.
I cut one of those apart too.
Yeah, we'll cut everything apart. I mean, we've got the tools. How many mallets do you have?
Me?
Yeah.
I have a dead blow, and that's it.
Wow.
Because I've switched over to Japanese chisels, and I use a hammer for my chisels.
Okay. There was that guy at North Bend Street who had the orange dead blow mallet with leather glued to it, and that was next level. That was like the cheap mallet with the upgrade.
I'm gluing leather to my dead blow.
That's pretty cool. So
That's nice.
all right, you want to go next?
Sure. I just came back from a long week at Mark Adams, which was really awesome. And so this definitely is my all-time favorite tool of all time, period.
Is Mark Adams' outfitted shop?
It's his ice cream machine. That is it. I wasn't thinking about that. It is a sharp tool, whether it's a hand plane or a chisel. Sharp, because a sharp tool, it's a different animal than the exact same tool that isn't sharp. And the things you do with it, the way it responds to it, the level of accuracy that
We're still talking about the ice cream machine?
No, I'm talking about getting a sharp tool.
Okay. I thought you were elaborating on how much you love the ice cream machine, and it was getting really woodworkery, and I was surprised. Okay.
Well, there's like you got the vanilla on one side, the chocolate, and then like the swirl in the middle. You got the little cones right there by the machine, or the little bowl with the Hershey syrup and a little jar of peanuts in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you said ice cream machine, I've just been going over all my favorite flavors.
Yeah, it's
thinking
no
ginger.
longer woodworking for me, so I'm on ice cream. Sorry.
So properly sharpened tool is a thing in and of itself, and it was really cool if some folks were struggling to help them get an edge on their tool. And it's like, oh, bam! It's like, wow, this is great. Yes.
I discovered the only thing better than sharpening a tool and it being sharp is picking up a tool you haven't used in months and it's still being sharp. Like I sharpened it and then put it away.
And you go like, oh, thank you, past Ben.
Yeah. But like
Nice surprise.
I picked up my chisels my old set of chisels the other day to do something. And I just did a little parent cut. I was like, this is sharp.
Yes.
I was like, I do know how to sharpen. This is great.
Nice.
And I was like this rush of pride of like, no, I'm better at this than I remembered. So
That's very cool.
Nice.
I'll tend to like sharpen all of my tools like before I teach a class or something. And sometimes if it's like a hand plane skills class, I'll even sharpen all the hand planes that I don't normally use on a daily basis. And they'll just like, a lot of times they don't get used in class. They go back on my shelf and they're not my everyday planes. So it's kind of like that. I'll pull one out months later. And if I flip it over and if I feel how much the blade is sticking out, usually just dragging my fingers across the bottom of the plane. If that blade is like sucked up inside of the body, it's like, oh, that's still sharp and hasn't been used yet.
It's
like
fresh.
that. Yes. It's like finding that $20 bill in the wash or something. So,
It felt that way, yeah.
cool.
All right, my all-time favorite tool of all time for this week is Jeff's got a picture, but or a couple. I put up a tool rack, and it's not technically a tool; it's tool storage, but it's changed my life. And it's just a rack across. I have a big picture window in my shop, and it's a rack across my shop or the window that holds my chisels and my files and all my marking and measuring devices. I ordered some really powerful magnets. So I've got some 1/8-inch thick, 4-inch long, they're about 1/2 inch wide magnets that I inlaid into the bottom. And they're in key places. And I can just, something silly like the little thin 6-inch rule.
Yeah.
You can just stick it up there or,
It's really disconcerting, though.
why?
It's just like stuck on there.
It's just floating there.
It's very stressful.
It's
Yeah, it's like, I'm afraid it's going to start sliding down. It's a great idea, though.
It's really, really nice. I wish I went one step further in magnetic strength or however they measure that. It was like a 42 and I should have gone with the 56 or whatever. But
You said it's inlaid in the back of it?
into the bottom. So the rack is 3 pieces of 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch stock put together because I wanted to be able to pull each piece off and drill separately into. I wanted to be able to modify each strip
Yeah.
differently and just pull one off and, put these holes there, put it back on, whatever. And in the front of the first one, I have 2 of these magnets right now. I made slots for 3 of them.
Up from the bottom or
From the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just need to put a dab of CA glue in because sometimes if you pull a tool down, like the magnet will go with it.
Yeah.
But it's really, really nice to have a place for everything. So I really sat there and pulled out all of my tools and just, nicely laid everything out. I've got, both dial calipers up there, my digital ones, my analog ones.
Yeah.
The stressful part was like at the time my new chisel set was only the 4 chisels, so it's like I gotta buy the other 2, and so I bought the
Just for the
1/8
proper silhouette in the light. Sure.
Well, I wanted to make the homes, It
Right.
was like I didn't want to make the slots for the chisels and then not have the chisels, so I bought the 1/8 inch chisel and the 1.25 chisel. And the annoying thing is, I think Stanley's probably phasing out the 1/8 inch chisel because that chisel was $30 and the 1.25 was $20.
You're not paying for steel there.
No, definitely not.
Cool.
But this has made having my tools up and with a home has made working in my shop so much more enjoyable.
So, okay, that's really cool. And then you have that window. It looks like a north-facing window.
It's northeast. It's not quite magic level.
Okay. It's close.
Yeah.
So that's known as an Instagram window.
Yeah.
Because anything you put on the bench, turn off the lights, bam.
Instagram.
Not only that, I just noticed here you can look out past your chisels and you have like the awesomely painted chicken coop out there.
It's kind of over the top.
So like
really
you're
cool.
woodworking. Oh, there's my chisels. There's my chickens.
Yeah.
Life is good.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sickening.
Yeah. Looks like the yard is all encased. Looks like and everything. You got that little, is that PVC? Is that little water thing you were going to do?
Yeah, it's the chicken watering
That works?
system. Yeah.
Nice.
Works really well.
Okay.
Yep. And we're back on chickens.
Everything leads to chickens. All roads lead
This
to
is what
chickens.
it's like. Our lunchtime conversations are like here at finewoodworking.com. No, just Fine Woodworking. Talking about chickens.
Looking at your photo there,
Yeah.
can you plane a little thickness off the front and your magnet will be stronger?
Yeah, I could. Yeah. I've got other
Maybe,
magnets
right?
too. Because if you're going to order magnets, you got to order magnets. So I also
I
got
love
magnets
magnets.
that I know you do.
do.
You're nuts for magnets. I also got magnets I need to experiment with them because I tried to find magnets that were perfectly sized that you could do a domino mortise and then just slide the magnet in.
Oh, how about this?
What?
Well, this is what I'm going to do.
Wow.
I'm stealing this from you. I'm going to take that. I'm going to like rip a groove down all the way the length of that bottom, maybe like a 1/16 of an inch in from the edge. I'm going to buy like 100 rare earth magnets and just like line them up with like little wheels and like shove them in that groove all the way across.
Yeah.
You can just like throw your tool in the direction.
Yes.
Be like, shoo.
Yes.
Here was the thing. I didn't want the whole front. That'd be great for you.
And then a little strip of wood that you glue in from the bottom.
Well, okay, so I didn't want the whole front magnetized because I didn't want like all of my tools becoming magnetized eventually. I don't know.
Would you magnetize the tools even through the wood? Probably.
So that's why I was experimenting with this really thin magnet, and it's inlaid about 1/8 of an inch from the front.
So you pull
So
out
I
your,
could always bring it forward on any future ones.
so you pull out your like 1¼ chisel just to do a little pairing, and then all the chisels on your bench fly through.
That wouldn't be good.
That's cool.
All right.
Really nice. Your shop is turning out nice.
It's getting there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Great.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, John is going to make origami dragons out of Shop Sawn veneer.
We have plans for that.
This episode of Shop Talk Live is brought to you by Varathane. From furniture and cabinets to floors and crafts, professionals and DIYers alike have trusted the color and protection of Varathane since 1958. Varathane wood stain gives rich, true color in one coat, and Varathane triple thick polyurethane has the durability of 3 coats in one. Visit varathanemasters.com for details.
Hi, I'm Tom McLaughlin, host of Rough Cut with Fine Woodworking, sponsored in part by Felder Group and SCM. Season 8 is now airing on PBS and brings unusual, unique design inspiration and easy-to-follow project instruction to woodworkers at every skill level. Check your local listings or visit finewoodworking.tv to watch right now.
All right, next question is from Andy. Before getting into this, I had no idea people put so much effort into dust collection. I started woodworking with my dad years ago, and we just rolled the table saw out into the driveway. These days, I have a shop vac hooked up to a Cyclone that I use for whatever I can, but my dust collection isn't great. I end up wearing a respirator most of the time, except when I'm doing something that doesn't produce dust, like hand planing. How much importance do you place on having good dust collection? And is there ever a point at which your dust collection is so good you don't feel the need to wear a respirator? I remember when I first got into woodworking, I'd get on a forum, and I was shocked by how much people talked about dust collection. I remember saying to my wife, these people are obsessed with dust collection. Get a broom. And if I had the means, I would have...
Dust collection.
I'd probably put half of my shop budget into dust collection now, yeah.
What do you do, John?
Lately, I just work at the shop at work.
Okay.
Which has pretty good dust
Which
collection.
is awesome, yeah. At home, it's still not really set up how I would like it to be set up. I'm with some tools, I'm still at the stage of rolling it outside. You know, like my planer.
Your planer.
I'll bring that out in the driveway and put a box or like a shop vac hooked up to it.
You should just do it in the chicken coop.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Shoot it over the
Just
top.
shoot it. Right. Chickens are walking around covered in sawdust, and they just don't even care, and they wouldn't care.
I don't know. When I first started woodworking, I didn't think about it at all, and I feel like the more I do it, the more I think about it. And
How often do you wear a respirator or dust mask?
pretty often in my shop because it's not all hooked up to one major cyclone or something.
You also do a lot of shaping. You do your parts are rarely straight.
Yeah, I think of it like in chip size. I think.
Okay.
You know, if it's anything with small teeth that's going to make sawdust, then I just put a respirator on.
Okay.
If I'm using my joiner, I generally don't. Or planer.
I put a respirator on when I'm changing the dust bag the dust collector bag.
Yeah.
You got to do that.
Because I didn't do that a couple times. I mean, 'cause it gets out of hand in our shop.
All the
and-
stuff you're trying to keep from your lungs, and then just one dust bag change, and you get
Yeah.
like 10 years worth of
Yeah,
dust.
all of a sudden you got sawdust boogers for a month.
Yes.
You need like the Ghostbusters suit for that.
Yeah.
Because you're going into that tiny little closet. And there's really no airflow. It's like all just going at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just do like the hold the breath kind of a thing.
Yeah. Run in, run out.
I'm what you were kind of mentioning, John, I kind of differentiate between dust collection and chip collection. And the size of the particle being created, the smaller the particle, the more dangerous it is for you because it will get lodged in and not get expelled. So, and that's pretty small. Most of my tools, a bandsaw, planer, joiner, table saw, I don't think in terms of wearing a respirator. However, I am collecting, primarily I have a dust collector hooked up that I shares between my planer and my table saw because they create the most amount of waste. And I just want to get rid of that.
Just convenience too.
In doing so, I mean, you're not really, I think you're capturing a lot of dust from the table saw. Planer doesn't really make dust, it makes chips. My joiner, I consider that chips. I just have a box just sitting, below the little chip chute. Empty that on occasion. I have a small vac hooked up to my bandsaw just to sort of keep all that, whatever. It's kind of dust, but it's heavier than dust, almost like a really coarse sand. Anyway, I try to keep all of that out of the bandsaw case. Where I'm really careful about that is, I think sanding, even hand sanding is probably like the most dangerous thing because you're really sort of kicking up a lot of dust and a lot of really, really fine particles. I always have a shop vac hooked up to my random orbit sander. Not that I use it all that often, but number one, because it works so much more efficiently when you're collecting dust out of it. And number two, it's like you're getting over 90% of the dust. It's generating just picked up right from the source.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm sweeping, I have like an overhead dust collector for when I'm creating dust that I can't remove with a shop vac or dust collector. It's like one of those boxes that hang from your ceiling. I'll kick that on if I'm doing hand sanding, or especially if I'm sweeping my shop. I mean, that thing is on full blast for a couple hours to clear that out.
I think the most important thing is that if you have a good respirator that's comfortable, you're more likely to use it. And I know at our shop, I don't have my good respirator that's at home, and I'm too cheap to buy a second one to keep at the shop. But like the paper ones, they just fog right up with my glasses.
Right.
Even if I try, like sometimes if I go change to the dust collector, I'll take my glasses off, put the dust mask on, do the thing. But if I was smart, I would buy a second respirator. It's like $35, whatever, and keep it there because I'd be more likely to use it. I do think that the table saw creates an amount of dust that I would use one if it was if it was easy to do. I think routing for me, if you're routing mortises, that like we did that mortise video and I was
It's kind of chippy.
I was stuffed up. I don't know because it's right by your face too.
Yeah, but if you stand the right way, it shoots out. So,
also, I would keep in mind too. I know that Mark Spagnolo has brought this up a lot. He's wearing a respirator all the time, and he's had respiratory issues due to dust. And I know Jay Bates, same deal, has had respiratory issues due to dust. Keep in mind, these guys are working in their shop, 40, 50, 60 hours a week making video content. And they're getting a lot more than the average woodworker, even probably us.
they probably get free dust collectors, respirators too.
They might, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I have one dust mask with the 2 rubber bands on it. And so I always
how
hang
long
it.
have you been using that single one?
I don't know, quite a while. So I hang it from the handle of my hollow chisel mortiser, by the rubber band. So it's kind of sitting there with that little inside, the concave side facing up. So so you pick that thing up. And it's just
That's
like
your dust collector.
this little baby bird's nest filled with dust. You kind of like smack it against your hand and put it on. And I don't know.
Vic Tesling keeps his respirators in Ziploc bags. I saw that. I was like,
That's way too smart.
That's
Yeah.
so smart. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's like why don't I do that? Come on.
Yeah. Seriously, dust collection, it's a hugely important thing, and I think it's a really big issue now as it's become more identified for its hazards. It's actually listed as a carcinogen, like dust below a certain particular size. So now do what you can. Protect yourself with a dust mask or respirator when you can't get the dust out of the air. They always say, the best idea is collect it at the source, meaning you have a dust collector hooked up to your sander or your joiner planer table saw, and where you can't get something on. It is an important thing. So don't do what I say I do. Just do what you need to be doing. Yeah.
My phone's going off. Fired.
Who is it? Can we check?
It was my wife.
We'll wait.
All right.
What's it saying here?
It was about
Go ahead.
bobbin winder.
I was giving a PowerPoint presentation during one of my classes for Kumiko, and they didn't have a computer to hook the little thumb drive to, so I just brought it up on my iPad, and they have like a video camera and big giant screens on either side of the workbench, so they just aimed the camera at my iPad for the Kumiko presentation. That's pretty cool. But then I had like the little email. Notice it kind of drops down, and there's a note from my wife about something like the psychos are going crazy today. And she, of course, was referring to like my in-laws,
Who obviously do not listen to woodworking podcasts.
No. So that was a little awkward, but that was funny.
That was one more use for the blue tape. Just
Yes, across the top there. Yes.
boy.
That's funny.
All right. All right, let's read some comments. I believe these are all in response to episode 168. I can't keep track of it anymore. But this one is from Marcelo. Dear Mr. Pekovich, I'm going to put music under this one. I can't thank you enough for opening my eyes about chiseling. The answer you gave for the guy suffering with white oak and further reading your article was a shock for me. I was about to buy a new set of chisels and a Tormek system. You saved me a lot of money and changed my approach with chisels.
Nice.
Right on. Glad I helped you out. Although, feel free to get a new set of chisels and a Tormek.
I know. You can't,
Now I feel bad.
Yeah.
He might have his eye on some really nice Japanese chisels or something.
But, now he might go buy something else
Okay.
that he needs.
All right. I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah. Like a respirator. And the thing that I really like about this comment, it did my heart good. It was like he listened to you, and then he went and he read the articles that I linked to and everything. It's like we really sucked him into that ecosystem. So, all right. And then from our friend Kevin Almeida, I believe is how you say his last name. Look up soft touch self-stick non-slip surface grip pads on Amazon. They work extremely well and are a decent price. The only problem is if you stub your toe on a step stool, your toe will break in 5 places because these buggers grip and do not let go. Finally, make the podcast every 2 days instead of every 2 weeks. Thanks in advance.
Soft touch self-stick non-slip surface grip pads.
Yeah, and
rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
It sounds like maybe you can make good push sticks from that stuff then.
Well, I looked and they sell it in the sheets too, like the Lee Valley stuff that I mentioned. So might be worth looking into.
Sounds like a really good frying pan too.
I can't begin to read that again. All right, and then on iTunes, a 5-star review from Cisco, aka Martin. Just as Fine Woodworking is the best woodworking magazine, Shop Talk Live is the best woodworking podcast. The regular commenters, editors from the magazine, answer valuable questions knowledgeably and articulately. I have started working my way through the archive and haven't gotten bored yet. Listening to these guys makes me yearn to take a course with them, and I have to be grateful that they answered my novice question. You're welcome.
Oh, I think you're talking about the wrong podcast, but I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it lost me at articulate. So, does anyone have any recommendations this week? I don't. I dropped the ball on it.
I have one that's not like a tool, but a state of mind.
Okay.
So I thought of this for a project I'm working on at home. I'm enclosing our front porch into like a little room off of our dining room. And I'm to the point now working on the trim under the window, like the windowsill. or the window seat, I guess. I don't know what the right term is for that, depending on width, maybe.
Patrick's not listening. Don't worry.
All right, we'll go with sill because I'll probably keep saying that. So I made it like extend 4 inches beyond the window opening on either side and just cut it to that length. But then where the two meet at a corner in the wall,
Yeah.
it was just like this awkward little space where it seemed like it should connect.
Like go
It's
all
like-
the way out and be mitered or something.
Yeah, it was just like looked wrong, and it was too late because I cut it. I could have left it long and thought about it and mitered it. And,
Right.
So you just stare at it for a little while. And so my recommendation is to not panic with stuff like that because that ended up being like the coolest part
Yeah.
of how it turned out, I think. So I actually cut it even shorter and then added like a little bridle joint and like a little curved piece and 2 little pegs.
This
And
is
it's like this little, just continuous little sill now. And it looks like that's what it was supposed to be like, but that was the mess up. But it's the best part. So
so
you
woodworking, just
you don't
take
know
a step
this.
back and
Tetroed
don't
it.
panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's sometimes the best part of the design, I think.
You don't know this, but like when you walk away after a story like that, that's when we all turn to each other and say, "Screw that guy," because it's just come on, like too great. We all want to be
hopefully
Tetra.
no, I'm just trying to say I'm like not to panic because
Yeah.
like that's a mess up,
I'm often in my shop faced with situations like that, and I say, how can I Tetro this? What would John do?
Yeah,
Cut it short and then try to figure something out
That's right. That's cool.
on accident.
That's nice. But you've been working on that for a long time. But that is a cool thing. Even something as simple as trim, when you do it yourself, you give yourself that opportunity to do something really cool, even in a small way, which is like above and beyond what you're going to find in any, whatever $1 million McMansion out there with,
yeah.
when everything is done technically correct. But when you're able to personalize your house like that, that's really awesome. And that's in it. I mean, your entire house is kind of like that. There's these details that you've built into that, which make it your own. That's really cool.
And most
And
of
they
them
all
are
start from
mistakes
scrub.
that you fix.
It's like when John, I'm talking about John as if he were no longer here again.
Okay.
I can hide under the table or something.
John and his wife bought a house, and he said, Mike, can I take off Friday because I'd like to spend the weekend painting the house before we move in, like the walls, interior, and everything. So on Monday he comes back. I said, I said, how the house go? You painting done? He goes, no, but I did rip out all of the drywall in the entire house.
Productive weekend.
Yes. So, so your house by now it's almost a handmade house, I would say.
It's still not really close to getting done. And it's like you take one step forwards, and that room that I'm working on now,
Yeah.
It was getting really close, ready to put the wood floor down. And now the roof is leaking and like picking up a puddle like right on the floor where the wood floor is going to go. So yeah,
That was
Ouch.
this is
That's
like
the
my
next thing.
shop. I had finished all the ceiling drywall and everything, insulation, and I was going to get ready to start putting trim up, and roof leak.
yeah.
And it was another 6 months. All right. Do you have anything, Mike? You can't follow that. So.
No, I can't.
All right. That's all for this episode of Shop Talk Live. If you have questions you'd like us to answer on the show, send them into shoptalk@taunton.com. You can also use the voice memo app on your phone and email us a 30-second audio recording. Or you can leave a voicemail by calling 203-304-3456, and I'll figure out how to listen to that voicemail eventually. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Thanks for listening.
The answer to the question is Gauss. That's what the
The-
unit of measure for magnetism is.
Would like 46 Gauss make sense for a magnet?
Yeah.
What's
Okay.
the Greek letter for Gauss?
I don't. No, it's the guy's name.
I know, but isn't it like what's a symbol for it?
Looks like
Oh.
a small partridge.
Yeah, Jeff.
That I don't. I can't tell you.
Looks like a small partridge.
Gross.
That's a grouse.
Sorry.